Joining me now is a favorite guest of this program. Her new book is out now. It's called Adios America, How the Left is Turning the United States into a Third World Hellhole. Ann Coulter is a columnist and the author of that new book, which you can get on Amazon at www.amazon.com. Adios America. You'll see it pop up. I've ordered it there myself, and it is now gracing my bookshelf. Ann Coulter, welcome back to the program.
Good to talk to you, John Gibson. I heard you order it live on radio, remember?
Yes, I do remember, and I have it sitting here, so it reminds me of it all the time. So you were out there with Donald Trump in Dubuque for this news conference that turned into a standoff between Donald Trump and Jorge Ramos. Just confirm for me my opinion from watching on television that Ramos was trying to hijack the news conference.
Well, he was clearly trying to. I know that from giving college speeches and facing this at pretty much every college speech I go to. This is why you always have to have, your organizers must be told, never let them get a hold of the mic. Liberal protesters need to learn the definition of the word question. No, this is when you ask a question. It's not where you show up and read off a piece of paper and read a speech. People haven't flown out to Dubuque, which, by the way, is not easy to get to, so that they could hear, Jorge Ramos practice his English skills in reading a 20-minute speech.
But he was okay. Let me give you my interpretation of the event. You tell me if I'm right or wrong. Okay, Jorge Ramos, his mission in life is to make sure no Hispanic American citizen voter votes for Donald Trump. And he went there to cause a scene and make sure that was the outcome.
I don't think so. Jorge Ramos' mission in life is to make sure lots and lots of Mexicans and all Latin Americans pour into America and remain in Spanish-language ghettos, unable to speak the native tongue of the country they are living in, so that they are forced to watch Univision and listen to Jorge Ramos, and he can be the leader of the Hispanics and make lots of money working for Univision. Univision is a Spanish-language TV station, John. It doesn't help them if immigrants from Latin America learn English, fit into society, work their way up.
I totally agree, but my point
that's
is
his
that
main objective. Make money.
In this electoral season, he wants to alienate that vote from Donald Trump.
I don't think that's really even in the top 10 list of things to do. Look, the Hispanic vote is not an important voting bloc for Republicans. I don't know what it is with Republicans. I'm getting to the point, I don't care what their position is on any issue. I just want a Republican who's capable of doing math. Like 72, 73% of voters in a presidential election are going to be white. Get that number up a little more. What was it, like 10%, 12% were Hispanic? And even when George Bush, President Bush, when he ran the biggest Hispandering operation this country has ever seen out of the Oval Office, he had, Spanish language radio addresses once a week. He had a Spanish language White House address. He carried that half Mexican nephew around with him like it was an extra appendage. He campaigned with the president of Mexico, and what did he get? Oh, he still lost the Hispanic vote, John Gibson. So we are
he got 40%. That's different than Romney's 27%.
Of 10% of the vote.
Well, okay,
Even if you run your entire campaign to do nothing but get this one narrow demographic, you're never going to get more than 40%. That's what George Bush showed, because he did run his campaign to get nothing more than the Hispanic vote. And what did he get? That's still losing. Republicans don't understand. No, you have to get 51% at least to win an election. Winning 40%, not going to win an election. And one demographic we're not hearing much about at all is, how are blacks going to vote? Because black people love Donald Trump, and they're not wild about low-wage immigrants being dumped on the country, taking their jobs, taking up tax money, taking up social service money, taking up compassion fashion and political correctness.
I get all that, but
Blacks
they're
love Donald Trump.
Well, yes, but I would just make you a bet right now, in which I buy you an expensive dinner, that blacks are going to vote for Hillary Clinton. Period.
Yeah, they like
Donald Trump might get a big chunk of them, but they're going to vote for Hillary Clinton because they.
But
I'm sorry to say this: blacks march in lockstep.
Right. There's. You know what? They are the biggest block voters of any demographic. You know what the second demographic that is the biggest block voters? Immigrants. Blacks vote 90% for the Democrats. Immigrants, recent immigrants, post-1970 immigrants, vote 80% for the Democrats. So why are Republicans fixated on getting a group of people who are not going to give them a majority of their vote? You don't have the Democrats saying, okay, that's it. We got to turn our whole operation over to how do we get gun rights supporters to vote for us? How do we get evangelical Christians? No, they say we're going to lose this vote.
Okay,
let's concentrate on our base.
So I have been instructed on the math by
your computer calculator.
All right, I'll name him so you can attack him if you want to, but I'd urge you not to. But I put
Grover
this question.
Norquist, Whit
Okay,
Ayers,
no,
Marco
not
Rubio.
Grover Norquist. None of them. The other day, in my usual disquisition with Chris Stirewalt, I said, look, can Donald Trump bring out non-Hispanic voters in great enough numbers, I mean more than Mitt Romney got, to overcome not getting the Hispanic vote? And he said it is always a losing proposition to try to invent new voters. And you say?
Well, on that theory, since Romney lost and McCain lost, Republicans can never win another election. Perhaps you're right. I thought that November 7th, 2012. With Donald Trump, we got a shot. If only Romney had talked more about immigration, I mean, I would like Romney to be Trump's vice president. He was the best on immigration. He's very, and a very serious individual, a former governor. He certainly would know what to do with the Fed and other things. Unfortunately, after the primaries, he stopped talking about immigration as much as he did. But he got more of the Reagan coalition than Ronald Reagan did. He got almost 60% of the white vote. Unfortunately, he lost a lot of the working class white vote in the states like in the auto bailout states, which are states Obama had been concentrating on since before he became president with that auto bailout. Also, it's very hard to beat an incumbent. Also, the Democrats cheat. I think Donald Trump is going to bring out voters who, I mean, there's this big thing in the New York Times today, how Trump is winning every poll, even with likely voters, but he's winning especially with unlikely voters, as they're called, people who haven't tended to vote in primaries. But the point is, maybe there's a reason these people have not been voting. If he gets that up ever so slightly, I mean, Byron York ran the numbers, and if Romney had gotten 3% more of the white vote, he would have won. If he had gotten 71% of the Hispanic vote, which, by the way, Republicans will never get, never in 1 million years will they get that, he would have lost. So what are you going to do, Republicans? Yes, let's concentrate on getting,
can I ask you,
40% of 12% of the vote. Brilliant.
Okay, so look, I totally get it that you support Trump. Okay, but let me ask you this about him, because apparently you do talk.
I was talking about numbers, not Trump.
I understand. But
that was
is something I'm curious about.
What you just
I know. Well, that's what radio interviews are, because I'm looking at the clock and I see I'm going to run out of time. So I got to rush ahead to this
so you
question.
pretend this is responsive. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, right, exactly. So you're close to Trump. You talk to him.
Not really, but he read my book and advanced.
Well, he read your book, and you were there at the Dubuque thing, so I gather you speak to him. I hope you do. Anyway, do you think that could we be confident that Donald Trump actually would listen to some people? Let's just say he listened to you and pick Mitt Romney as his vice president. Would he listen to Mitt?
On some things, absolutely. Of course he would. Look, he's been good on immigration for years. He has been good on protecting American jobs for years. He is someone who clearly loves the country. I've gone back and looked at this with these claims that, he's been all over the map. For one thing, in 2013, he and I independently were the only anti-amnesty speakers at CPAC in Washington. They had all these immigration panels, and it was all the people I accuse you of being your advisors, Grover Norquist, Whit Ayers, Marco Rubio. The whole crew was there. There was nobody there to be anti-amnesty.
None of them speak to me.
Well, I know, but that's how I was just denouncing you earlier in the interview. I was just clarifying. All those people. They were the ones speaking at CPAC on the immigration panels, and afterwards, people who care about this issue were noting that the only two speakers at CPAC, March 2013, who spoke out against amnesty were Donald Trump and Ann Coulter, because we gave standalone speeches and nobody asked what we were going to say before we spoke. So he's been good on this for a while, but look, he knew after seeing that Ramos, or the interview I had with Jorge Ramos, which was a week before my book came out, he instantly called and asked for a copy of my book, and he read it cover to cover, and it's very clear he read it cover to cover. His basic instincts are so what this country has been waiting for, and so what, in particular, the white working class, the people who have been shoved aside as the Wall Street Journal, obsesses over the import-export bank or export-import bank or whatever it is. They have all their little plans for how they're going to reform entitlements. How are you going to do any of this if you can't get elected Republicans, and you're never going to be elected president again if this demographic shift to the country continues? 80% of post-1970 immigrants are voting for the Democrats. Do the math on that. It's got to be stopped. Americans could vote until they're blue in the face for Republicans. They're being outvoted by foreigners.
Annie, it's always a
John
pleasure.
Gibson. So good to talk to you again.
The time has expired, but it is good to talk to you, and I wish everybody would read your book, because it's a great book, and it's an issue that everybody should confront. You did, and by the way, if I may say so, I think you did better with Jorge Ramos than Donald did.
Oh, I loved Donald throwing him out. I was in heaven.
Well, wait a minute. We have a drop I'd like you to hear. Chris?
Sit down.
That was my favorite
love
part.
that. The only quote I like better, and if you can get a clip of that, is after his Mexican rapist comments. He said something like, "Well, who's doing the raping?" One of my friends made that his phone ringtone. Who's doing the raping?
Annie, it's always good to talk to you.
It's going to be a good year.
All right. Thanks very much.
Goodbye.
All right. Ann Coulter, check out her book. Adios, America, the left's plan to make the U.S. a third world hellhole. To her, immigration is the issue, the only issue. You can't do anything until you solve that. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot right after this. Gibson on Fox.